I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Goldeneye is America's #1 movie with a bullet.
Name's Bond. James Bond.
And critics are calling it the best action-adventure movie of the decade. Only Bond can deliver thrills this big. On a scale of 1 to 4, Goldeneye gets 7 stars.
Bond. Only Bond.
Pierce Brosnan is the best Bond since Sean Connery. And Goldeneye is the best Bond film ever.
Trust me.
Goldeneye, rated PG-13, now playing.
Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video, and this is another request, this time from Joseph, and he wanted me to talk about my top 10 favorite James Bond films and 5 worst. First off, if anyone wants to request pretty much any type of video, review, re-review, topic, reaction, list, anything random, or feel free. You do send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both things are down below in the info box. Now, before I get into the list, just to showcase what I have here, a long time ago someone sent me these, and I don't know if the person's still around. If you are, feel free to chime in. This is still a fantastic gift. One of the best gifts I've ever gotten. It was this set. Having all the James Bond films on DVD. And you have these. One's missing because I have it over there, but now with James Bond, I did not grow up with a lot of James Bond, to be honest. So I think those reviews are still up, but they're pretty old though, to be fair. The James Bond I grew up with was Pierce Brosnan. Because that was a time when seeing Goldeneye on VHS, then Tomorrow Never Dies. And so I would say he's my James Bond, because it's the generation I grew up with. And I didn't see the older stuff till most of them for the first time when I got these. So I'm not the most knowledgeable on James Bond. I haven't seen these films since, not because I dislike them. In fact, most of them I enjoyed. There wasn't that many that I outright hated. So even to doing the top 5 worst, it's more... There's some I did dislike, but not a whole lot. The majority of them I did enjoy to some level. But because I'm not as knowledgeable of them as other franchises, my memory's going to be vague on each one. So I kind of as to what I felt and remember a little bit at the time of enjoying. So bear with me on that. So the top 10 favorites, I would say number 1 would be Goldeneye, the first James Bond film I saw. First appearance by Pierce Brosnan, who's supposed to be James Bond a bit earlier, but things didn't work out. So they got Timothy Dalton. but very entertaining action scenes. I mean, there's a bit where he's driving a fucking tank, and some good gunfire battles, gunplay, explosions. Famke Johnson as the lady that tries to crush you with her thighs. Not a bad way to die. Yeah, people like Joe Don Baker, I believe Judi Dench appeared here as M. Pretty good cast. And directed by Martin Campbell, who would go on to direct Casino Royale, among others. So, yeah, really do enjoy Goldeneye. Number 2 is actually another Pierce Brosnan film, which another review will be up for this either before or after this video. Tomorrow Never Dies. Again, these are the 2 James Bond films I grew up with the most, so maybe that's why they're my top 2 favorites. But, like I said, I really like Pierce Brosnan. I think he has the charisma, he has the charm for James Bond, but he handles the role well physically. And, like I will say in the review, I like the idea of Jonathan Pryce's villain as this media mogul who pretty much wants to start a war for ratings, for certain TV rights, and this sounds silly, but nowadays that's more probable than one would think. Plus, it was cool to have Michelle Yeoh from Super Cop in the flick. And once again, the action scenes are well done. You have the motorcycle sequence, very stellar, where a helicopter... I think that's the first time I ever saw they do... You've seen this done in other movies, but when the helicopter points down, is fucking stuff up with its blades. The first time I ever saw that was in this movie. I'm not saying it's never been done before. I'm saying that's the first time I had seen it. I mean, there have been films where people are attacked by a helicopter, like Cliffhanger, but the fact of literally pointing it down with the blades. So I thought that was cool. Yeah, once again, I really did enjoy this flick. The remote control car, I thought that was a neat idea. But yeah, Tomorrow Never Dies. Number 3, I would have to pick, once I put this back in the right order, License to Kill. Timothy Dalton. This is definitely a time where they wanted a bit more of a serious James Bond after films like A View to a Kill and Octopussy. I mean, there have been The Living Daylights, but this one is definitely more of a... It feels more like an 80s James Bond, more serious James Bond. It's a revenge story, which is not typical for a James Bond flick. Robert Davi did a nice job as the villain. I like the lead song. License to Kill. Dun, dun, ba-dun, dun. And I'm trying to remember... Was this the... This might have been the first James Bond film that did PG-13. Yeah, because The Living Daylights is PG. Other films are PG. But this was PG-13. I mean, you had was it someone was fed to, like, was it sharks or crocodile? Yeah, probably it's been a while since I've seen these movies. The bit with the semi, put it on 2 wheels so the missile goes through. Let's say Timothy Dalton doesn't get a lot of credit as James Bond. Sadly, he only did 2 films. But he played the role very well. He was Daniel Craig before Daniel Craig in the James Bond type. So, License to Kill, definitely one of the better, more underrated James Bond films. That's number 3. Number 4, I would have to go with The Spy Who Loved Me. Because I remember watching this and being very impressed with the spectacle of the film. Being impressed with all the amount of almost sci-fi type of tech. You have the car that goes from up top to underwater. And the thing is with James Bond, it pushes the limits of believability to the extreme. And for the most part, I can enjoy it. Even I have my breaking points, and when I get to the worst, I'll mention that. But this one, as my favorite song of all the James Bond films, The Spy Who Loved Me, the main song of this is easily my top favorite James Bond song. The Spy Who Loved Me. I just remember this being a lot of fun. Like, I felt the big scope of this movie. Seemed to went like a very quick, fast pace. The big battle amongst in the submarine and all the wherever the bad guy's lair rising from the ocean. Like, these are the James Bond films that Austin Powers were based on. More Roger Moore's movies than, say, James Bond, Sean Connery's. Yeah, really enjoyed that one. And to me, it's the best Roger Moore James Bond flick. Number 5. Yes, we're finally getting to a Sean Connery one. Which I do like Sean Connery James Bond. Goldfinger. Goldfinger. I do enjoy Goldfinger. Just very memorable characters with the villains. Do you want me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I want you to die. Oddball who throws the hat that cuts off, that will cut your head off. It really showcased the epitome of cool for James Bond, and was able, to me, this is kind of where James Bond was getting his foot, finding his footing, I guess is the best way to put it. And where it was entertainment, yeah, bigger than life thrills. The whole Goldfinger idea is a very different type of story, type of art, type of vibe. Like having women that are gold painted, there's a certain weird quality to the picture. And Sean Connery does a great job as James Bond. Definitely had that cool factor to him. And then after that, I probably would go with For Your Eyes Only. I remember being rather impressed with this. I mean, from the beginning of the film, where picking up the bad guy, lifting him up, and dropping his ass down in this like smokestack type of thing. I mean, that's a hell of a way to open a movie. This felt like a Roger Moore, James Bond flick. They try to be a bit more serious, a bit more of a badass Roger Moore. Like the others are a bit more campy or a bit more, fun, but sci-fi. This one seemed to be the Roger Moore film that's a bit more down to earth in a weird way. This is the type of role that, the type of flick that Timothy Dalton would do in like The Living Daylights and such. And Roger Moore does have some badass moments in this. It was also cool to see people like Topol, who I remember from the 80s Flash Gordon movie. And you still had the fast cars, the beautiful women, the excellent stunt work. But this one, it seemed really a fun, exciting flick For Your Eyes Only. Really got a kick out of it. Sorry I'm not going in depth on these because, like I say, it's been a while since I've seen these, so it's... I only have vague memories, not because of the films, but again, when I reviewed those, that was years and years and years ago. This was the first time I had seen most of these. And I haven't seen them since, just for lack of time, honestly. Then I would go number 7, You Only Live Twice, another Sean Connery film. This is when James Bond went to Tokyo. That's one of the aspects I liked about it, was the change in venue. Tokyo made it a very colorful background. You also had some fun gadgets. You see a little bit in that corner here that Sean Connery is flying around. You also have Donald Pleasence, which this is where Dr. Evil came from. You want to know where Dr. Evil came from? There you go. There's Dr. Evil, played by Donald Pleasence. As Blofeld. It's from this movie. Spectre organization, led by Blofeld, Donald Pleasence. And Donald Pleasence, I mean, come on, you got Donald Pleasence as the villain. Pretty damn cool. Pretty damn solid. Can't complain about that. Let's see, then number 8, I would go with The Living Daylights, another Timothy Dalton film. I like License to Drive. That'd be a weird James Bond License to Drive. License to Kill more. But this was still an entertaining flick. But she actually had Joe Don Baker in this one. So before the Pierce Brosnan films. I remember liking it, but God, I cannot remember. I remember this having some really good stunt sequences in it. Weapons conspiracy that may be linked to the Soviet military high command. This time directed by John Glenn. God, I cannot remember some of the fucking... I think this is the bit where he's hanging from the airplane. These are films I would like to rewatch again sometime to refresh my memory. But I just didn't have time to go through all these movies to do that. So I apologize to Joseph. But yeah, I do remember liking this one quite a bit. Number 9, I would put Skyfall on there. Which this did impress me quite a bit. I really liked Javier Bardem as the villain. The whole ending where it's in James Bond's former home and he's putting up traps and he has this old school shotgun. I thought that was pretty damn cool. I got a kick out of that. And... Huh. That's strange. This is a Blu-ray case, but in here it's a DVD. I did not notice that. Oh well. Yeah, it's a pretty lengthy movie, but I do like Daniel Craig as James Bond. Definitely more serious James Bond, but I do like him. Same with my number 10 choice, Casino Royale. Yes, I know this is the full screen edition, but it suffices. But yeah, Casino Royale is pretty good flick. But it has this weird thing where the timeline is strange because Judi Dench plays M in these. She also played M in the Pierce Brosnan films. Now in these films, do the Pierce Brosnan films not exist? Even though she plays the same character of M? Because you have... I mean, that's the weird thing with a lot of this. Like, a lot of this stuff, the same guy plays Q. From the Sean Connery to the Pierce Brosnan era. Does that mean all the films are linked? And like, For Your Eyes Only, it references his wife dying, which is in On Your Majesty's Secret Service. So, are we led to believe that all these films are on a certain timeline? Does Pierce Brosnan, is that James Bond the same as the James Bond in The Spy Who Loved Me, and the same James Bond that was in Goldfinger? If that's the case, like Judi Dench is in Will's Not Enough, Goldeneye, but she's also in this. Or is it a separate timeline, but Judi Dench just happens to play the same role? It's very confusing. Very confusing. But yeah, I did like the action sequences in these newer films. I thought Daniel Craig played the role very well. For much more down and dirty, serious James Bond. Which was nice to see a difference, you know. Especially after Die Another Day. Well, speaking of which, now that I did to the 5 worst ones for me, my number 1 pick for the worst, Die Another Day. To me, this is the worst James Bond film I've ever fucking seen. And it's sad, because I like Pierce Brosnan, but, you know I was talking about before how you could suspend believability, and the suspension of belief, of course, is James Bond. This was a step too far. This is a step too far, because you had a fucking invisible car. When you get to the fact you have invisible cars, what's that, invisible jets, like Wonder Woman? It's too much. Invisible cars, too fucking much. And then the guy with the diamonds in his head, and then driving on the car, and there's a shitload of CGI, and there's an explosion, while he's driving on the ice. But according to the Chicago Sun-Times, it's one of the best Bond films ever. And Entertainment Weekly, the most exciting Bond adventure in years. So apparently I'm alone in that. I like Halle Berry. It being in the snow, cool, different venue, but... And Pierce Brosnan I don't have a problem with, but... when you have a whole beginning of the film, when he's been sabotaged and he's captured, he's been tortured, he's been a more serious... Like, the beginning of the film is a very serious, dark tone, but then it leads to you on the fucking ice, outrunning CGI explosions, and fucking invisible cars and shit. That doesn't work consistently. So, that's to me is the worst one. Number 2, I had to think about this because I had another choice. But honestly, and that became later, my second is this one, Octopussy. This is one of those, I remember when I saw this, I'm like, I can't get into this. Maybe because, you know, The Spy Who Loved Me I really enjoyed. Moonraker, kind of interesting on a fun, campy level. For Your Eyes Only was surprisingly good. Surprisingly only because I never hear anyone talk about For Your Eyes Only, but... And this one just seemed boring. Just the plot was boring. The story was boring. The villains were boring. This also came out at the same time as Never Say Never Again. And that's another film I thought wasn't that great either. But I guess that one has more of a novelty just as Sean Connery coming back. But yeah, this... The only thing memorable is the title. Octopussy. Ah, pussy. Yeah. Number 3, and my least favorite, and this is going to be a controversial one, but it's my opinion. I did not like this film at all. I thought this film was fucking boring. And that's From Russia With Love. Which I know is considered one of the best James Bond films. There's even a video game that I think Sean Connery came back to voice because he's a big fan of the movie. But I thought this film was fucking boring. I mean, I like Sean Connery. I could watch it for Sean Connery as well as Robert Shaw from Jaws. But I just remember this being tedious and slow and overlong. I could never get into this film, From Russia with Love. Could never get into it. Maybe if I watch it again, it wouldn't be so much a rant. Because I've seen so much worse fucking movies. My initial impression for how hyped it was, I don't think it lived up to it for me. Yeah, that's just me. And it's only for the fact that it's been so hyped that I was let down is why it's above this one. Because all intents and purposes, this is worse than For Russia with Love, but the way I felt on it, and because of the modern effects, which I know is shallow, but it's just me being honest, but it's still a part of the worst list. Number 4, The World Is Not Enough. And it's sad because Pierce Brosnan is my favorite Bond film, but of the 4 films he's done, 2 of them are on the worst of my top 5. And that's how it works. Like, his first 2 are in my top 2 favorites. His last 2 are in my top 5 worst. This one is another one I remember being bored. Denise Richards is a scientist. I was supposed to buy that shit. Again, it did have some action sequences, like the steam sequence, the boat sequence, that are pretty decent. But again, this is one of those films that I don't remember much shit about it. I don't remember if Robert Carlyle was the villain, Judi Dench, Desmond Llewellyn as Q, John Cleese as R. That's where you did more John Cleese, which I didn't give. I like John Cleese, but not in these James Bond films. It's funny, there's no reviews on this one. Although technically, there's really no reviews on these. Because you have these, they have kind of the same look to them. Okay, let me put it this way. One of these are not like the other. And the one is Die Another Day, because you got the gray that says special edition. So maybe that's why that has reviews on it. But The World Is Not Enough. I had enough of it. And then number 5, I decided to pick for the worst. Because I think you're going with Spectre. Because that's my least favorite Daniel Craig James Bond film. But I might go with this. Because this one I remember being more disappointed in. Because I like Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee is the villain who's this world-renowned assassin. But the problem is it goes to this whole thing about this energy converter that it takes away from the interesting plot with Christopher Lee. I mean, I don't give a fuck about this energy converter and all this shit going on with that. Go back to the Christopher Lee portion. That was the more interesting. And you kind of wish the entire movie was just about that. This assassin that wants to kill James Bond, and James Bond has to steep all this stuff from Christopher Lee's world-renowned assassin. But no, instead it's not going this whole fucking energy converter shit. And that was one of my issues I remember being with this film. The man with... I almost said the man with no name. The man with the golden gun. And I think that was Roger Moore's second one. Yeah, because I do remember liking Live and Let Die, the first Roger Moore one. I do remember liking that. Moonraker. I mean, it's a bit campy because it's with outer space stuff. I mean, in retrospect, my top 10 favorites: Goldeneye, Tomorrow Never Dies, License to Kill, Spy Who Loved Me, Goldfinger, For Your Eyes Only, You Only Live Twice, Living Daylight, Skyfall, Casino Royale. Top 5 worst: Die Another Day, Octopussy, From Russia with Love, The World Is Not Enough, The Man with the Golden Gun. I'll just showing the rest just because. Dr. No, I remember liking our first James Bond venture. Thunderball, I remember not being too impressed with it. It felt a bit long in the tooth. 2 hours and 10 minutes. Although I do like Sean Connery. This pretty much got remade for Never Say Never Again. I don't know which I like more, this or Never Say Never Again. I don't know, honestly. Diamonds Are Forever. I remember this not being too bad. A little bit of a campier Sean Connery James Bond, but yeah, I remember this being fun. Diamonds Are Forever. On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I do like it. I do wish Sean Connery had done this instead of... I mean, I don't mind George Lazenby, but I think if you took the same exact film and it was Sean Connery, it would have been one of his best films. I really do. Yeah, I don't mind George Lazenby, but if Sean Connery did this, I do maintain it would have been one of his best James Bond flicks. And I mentioned Moonraker, Octopussy, A View to a Kill. There's some entertainment value. I like the lead song, A View to a Kill, Under the Fire. It's cool to see Christopher Walken and Grace Jones, Tanya Roberts, may she rest in peace. But the big problem with this, Roger Moore was too old. He was too old, and you could tell. Because he could not move as much, doubles were used. He was just too old for the role. I think even he was too old for this. He was too old for this. I mean, if you had the young Pierce Brosnan or Timothy Dalton in the same thing, I think they would have had a better recognition, honestly. Timothy Dalton, sadly, he only got to do 2 movies, which sucks. Chroma Solace. A lot of people hate this one. I don't hate it. The editing needs improvement. I'll give you that. But this one... Oh, this one... Weirdly enough, I think it's one of the shorter James Bond films. So I think it's actually one that was pretty decently paced. I remember not minding Quantum of Solace. A lot of people hated it, but I remember liking it. I like it more than Spectre. Which if I did a top 10 worst James Bond film, Spectre would be on there. I guess if I did a top 10, let's see, 5, Spectre would be there. I would probably put Thunderball. I like the others, so maybe Never Say Never Again, maybe. But, yeah, I mean, I think there's more good than bad of James Bond. So with that said, thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.